the area.
Sure.
But tell us about your district. Where is it?
The 67th district is in western Fairfax County. Consists of 16 precincts. 15 actually are in Fairfax, 1 in eastern Loudoun County, principally the South Riding community out on Route 50. In western Fairfax, Chantilly, part of Centerville, over toward Fair Oaks Mall, western part of Fairfax post office addresses, as well as Oak Hill. So it's about 85,000 people. It's grown a little bit faster than your average district in Virginia over the years, and certainly with redistricting coming up in 2 years, the lines, I'm sure, will be changing.
It certainly is a growing area, all of Northern Virginia, but yeah. With transportation, some of the things that you've been talking about, I know you've been talking about Route 50 and what they're doing right now. For folks who don't know, because Route 50 does particularly. Okay, so you've been out there, you're out there campaigning. What are the main issues that people should know that you stand for?
Sure. The two principal issues that I'm talking to people about when I go door to door are transportation and education. Certainly the issue of jobs and the economy is sort of the umbrella issue that is on everyone's mind, and people ask about that, and we talk about that. I think people understand that that is a national and in fact international issue. It's not that the Virginia legislature is going to bring back the American economy on its own. That's something that's much bigger and much broader. There are things we can do in Richmond to promote jobs, promote economic growth, keeping taxes low, keeping regulations simple and easy to comply with, and that was certainly one of the things I worked on in the federal government. But in terms of what the legislature can do specifically to improve people's lives, the issues that I talk about most often are transportation and education, getting transportation projects prioritized so that our money is really spent on the projects that matter most in terms of reducing congestion, and making sure that the education dollars that we spend in Richmond, which are substantial and have been over the years, actually make it to the classroom. Today, more than a third of that money never makes it to the classroom, and we need more oversight of that process to make sure that changes.
Now, with transportation, some of the things that you've been talking about, I know you've been talking about Route 50 and what they're doing right now. For folks who don't know, because Route 50 does affect a lot of people.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's been funded. The plan has been established, and next year.
What's the plan?
Next year there will be a widening of Route 50, adding a lane in each direction from Route 28 out to Poland Road, which is in the South Riding area. In Loudoun County. Today there are actually 3 lanes, both east and west, in both directions of that stretch, and it narrows down to 2 for about 3 or 4 miles, and that's what causes so much of the congestion on 50 in western Fairfax and eastern Loudoun County. So this is about a 3-mile stretch of road that should reduce that congestion when it's completed.
What else do you think needs to be done?
Well, there's a number of projects. The bridge over Fair Lakes Parkway. There's a new bridge plan for Fairfax Parkway over Fair Lakes. Again, that is a congestion spot in Northern Virginia that would certainly affect people in the 67th district. But I think more than that, it's not just an issue of what are the projects in the 67th district that I can support, and certainly there are some. It's a regional issue. Very few people in the 67th or any other district live, work, and just stay there all the time. We drive all over the metropolitan area, and so it really is a regional issue. And one of the things I've emphasized in going door to door and talking to people is the need to rank the 200 or so transportation projects that are on the schedule right now based upon what they will do to reduce congestion. Because if we don't know what those top 5 or 10 projects are and they're not getting funded first, the problem's not going to go away. And I think we just haven't done it that way in Northern Virginia. There are some other parts of the country that actually have come up with a congestion reduction index, if you can believe it, but it's a good idea, and to actually score these projects based on an objective analysis using transportation professionals to say this is what the order ought to be.
And it's interesting that some counties and cities decide to use their transportation money differently, and a lot of folks will think, oh, depending on where you live, some people will say, oh, we have additional transportation funding, that will go to more roads. And then you find out that certain localities are saying, well, we're going to use a lot of the money for beautifying the median or
Sure.
widening sidewalks. And certainly we'd like to have nice wide sidewalks, but different people have different priorities. They'll put they'll want some areas they'll talk about traffic calming and they'll want to put a bunch of speed humps in.
Right.
Other areas are saying, wow, our traffic is already calmed. That's the last thing we need. So it does vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction what the governments and what the citizens want. They do have entirely different priorities in some instances.
Yeah, and there'll always be a need for road maintenance and improvement in addition to just widening and creating a better traffic flow. But if we're not funding the projects that really can do the most to reduce congestion, as I say, the problem's not going to go away. It really gets down to the question of government transparency, because what rating those projects and being public about that says that here's the list that the transportation professionals say would matter most. Now, if the politicians aren't funding those, they ought to be held accountable for that. Right now, we just don't know what would matter most or be the offer the biggest impact in terms of the top 5 or 10 projects, and so political leaders can't be held accountable.
And it is disjointed sometimes, because sometimes localities will approve roads based on projects, and sometimes they'll approve the projects way in advance, and then the roads don't come, but they've already approved the project. Or they'll approve a road simply because it serves a project, not necessarily because it serves serves the greatest need, and all these things play into it, and that's why the citizens should be involved, because there's nothing wrong with the government deciding in consultation with people where these things, where things should go. But so often, because the average person does not have the time to sit through hearing after hearing after hearing to keep an eye on their elected officials, that hopefully we'll have elected officials that don't need such close attention.
Yeah, where I see it leading is a consensus on the top 5 or 10 projects for Northern Virginia, that there could be bipartisan consensus built around, gain attention in the media, and say, okay, let's get these funded because we can measure or estimate how much of an improvement this would make.
Right.
And if unless and until we do that, it's just going to be a little bit here, a little bit there, and very much a tendency for elected officials to say, well, I want to have it in my district so I can go crow about it, whether or not that's actually making the biggest impact.
Right. And